All right, everybody, what is going on? Hope your Victory Monday continues to go well, although I have a feeling that it is. And you guys know what we typically do on Victory Monday, or, well, any Monday after a Seahawks game. We take a look at what Pro Football Focus thinks. And again, this is not to suggest that I think Pro Football Focus always gets it right, nor do I think they always get it wrong. I think they do a lot of good work. I think their objective metrics and statistics are very good. And sometimes they miss with the grading a little bit, but that's okay. That's not really something I'm going to get too upset about. At the end of the day, we're all trying to come to a better understanding of how pro football, or rather, how football in general works. And Pro Football Focus is a resource towards that, even if they may not always reflect reality. So we're going to start with the offense, of course. Going to do the defense in a later video. And I'll tell you, things are going to be looking pretty darn good. All right, everybody, before we go any further into the video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about a wonderful app called Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get all kinds of scores, sports news, and sports alerts with blazing fast speed. And of course, you can play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports with other people in a community. Download the Sleeper app today and remember to use the promo code SBN, that is SBN, for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And they also have a free $20 entry right now, no deposit required, so pair those two up. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. Check out the Sleeper app and have fun with sports this year. Okay, so I don't think anybody will be terribly surprised by our number one ranked offensive player by Pro Football Focus, Ken Walker, with the 90.6, one of the best games of his career. Absolutely dominant stuff from him. 3 touchdowns, well over, what was it, 140 yards from scrimmage. And he had to do it carrying a bigger load than he typically does because Zach Charbonnet got hurt early and wasn't able to do much. So Ken Walker obviously leading the way, but you can't forget about Abe Lucas. He's up here as well. 88.7. I think that's his best game of the year. It might be the best game of his career. And remember, he did have a penalty in this game. It's kind of hard to get graded this high when you have a penalty. And I believe this was our only penalty the whole game. And yet he's still up here. So remarkable. And taking the bronze medal in terms of the top line grade would be Cooper Kupp, which also makes sense because he was excellent. One of the best games he's had this year as a Seahawk. So definitely makes sense who these top 3 guys are. But here's something that's really cool. And Amari Kite, I know he mostly got in when the game was over, but he also got in a little bit earlier than the other backups because of the cross injury. And Knight actually looked pretty good. At least run blocking, he did his thing. I thought he had some really good reps run blocking for the Seahawks. I thought he helped clear the way for Walker's 3rd touchdown. 82.6. That is really hard to do. That is a number that even Charles Cross and Abe Lucas have not met very much this year. Now, it's 17 snaps. He obviously didn't play the whole game, and it's a little bit easier when you get in at the end and you're just run blocking every snap. But hey, that was pretty cool. Pretty nice. Also pretty cool, Gray Zabel, who has been getting beat up by Pro Football Focus all year, 80.4, mostly fueled by his really good run blocking. And this is the formula, right? As much as we like to keep our quarterback clean, and for the most part they did, run blocking is what this team needs if they're going to have success deep in the playoffs. And 80.4 is hard to beat. Oluwatimi played garbage time, but he was graded well, 76.6. AJ Barner did not get targeted once the whole game, but 75.5 on the heels of excellent run block grades and also really good pass blocking grades. So Barner can positively affect a game without even getting targeted once. And that's what makes him such a nice tight end to have. And that's what makes him such a good and fun player. Um, Charles Cross, who left early with a foot injury, did play a very good game when he was in there, 74.3. Pass blocking grade, very, very good. Run blocking, a little bit more towards the mediocre maybe, but you do see the improvement from Cross to, or from Josh Jones to Charles Cross in pass protection at left tackle. and that's why we pay him the big bucks. So hopefully he's okay for next week, but we'll talk more about that as the week goes on. Jake Bobo, he obviously only really made the one play, but the one play he made was so big and he only played 13 snaps overall that's going to get you there. 74.1. First time in a while, Bobo's made a play on offense that really felt like it mattered. And that one really mattered. Like that game, there's a scenario where that game flips if we don't get that first down. But he came up with a great route, made a great play, and there you have it. So I know it's only 13 snaps, but it's cool to see Bobo get involved. Eric Saubert on the entirely basically on the back of a phenomenal run blocking game 89.5, gets a good grade, 74. So he's doing what we have him here to do. This is why we felt confident enough to not activate Arroyo, I think, because we did not need him. And Saubert is proving why that was probably the right decision, as much as I do find myself intrigued by Arroyo. Sam Darnold, also well graded, 73.5. So I know he didn't do a lot on Saturday night. I know he didn't do a ton, but we're still talking about a guy who played effectively in the opportunities that he did get, and he did his job pretty much that whole game when he was asked to do anything. So I know it wasn't his best game of the year or anything like that, but he did the thing, 100%. JSN, 71.9. He didn't even have 20 yards because we just didn't need to throw the ball, but still, his run blocking grade was really good, which is very rare for him. So that's not something you would typically expect to see of JSN, and there it is, man. 80.3, 71.9 in a game where he catches 3 passes. The touchdown catch was great, but you got to be doing some run blocking if you're going to make a big contribution on a day like that. And then you have a little bit of a fall off to the next group where you get to the guys that were just kind of okay, like Jalen Sundell or Sundell or Sun. I always forget the right way to pronounce it. I think it's Sundell. 64.5 is still fine, but he did get whipped on pass blocking a couple of times. So there were some bad reps in there. Charbonnet barely played, so we're not really going to learn anything here, but sure, 63. Shaheed, he made his big play on special teams, and he did not catch a pass. So while he did have the really good end around or the jet sweep, 62.3 is where it is. And then with the exception of Anthony Bradford, basically everybody else here was somebody that only played in garbage time. So pretty much everybody that was poorly graded for the Seahawks in this game, or at least not well graded, was a guy who was there when we were running out the clock. So really, really cool. You got Nick Collerup, Drew Lock, Derek Young, Christian Haynes, Brady Russell, Velez Jones, Robbie Oots. Oots is the only guy who got a bad grades, 43.6. And again, he only played 10 snaps. So I guess that wasn't garbage time, but it's also not a meaningful sample size. So Bradford, even he's not that bad. 59 is not terrible. If we're getting 59s from Bradford and that's accurately reflecting his level of play, we're doing okay for ourselves. So the top line stuff is beautiful for the Seahawks offense. Let's dig in a little bit here, starting with the quarterback, Sam Darnold. The main thing I like to look at here is big time throws and turnover worthy plays. And you can see, even though he only threw the ball 19, or he dropped back to pass 19 times yesterday or Saturday, 2 of them were big time throws. You had 2 big time throws. I think they were the touchdown. And then he had another tight window throw to, I want to say, Cooper Kupp, and no turnover worthy throws, which are plays. And when that happens, we're hard to beat. His A dot was really high again, almost 10 yards of A dot, which, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed it watching that game, but he is pushing it. And he did have the one drop. I believe the one drop was Robbie Oots, by the way, and I don't even know if that should count because Robbie Oots isn't the guy who's supposed to be catching a pass ever. So you kind of expect him to drop it, but whatever. So there's that. And then you have his passing chart where, again, nothing going on deep down the field. So that part of the offense remains kind of hidden. But when you're running the ball the way Seattle did on Saturday, then why would you need to ever throw the ball deep? They tried it twice. It didn't work. Maybe it kept the defense honest so they could keep running it. Whatever it may have been, it certainly worked. And I don't think Seahawks fans would have it any other way. You can see he did use the intermediate a little bit here. 4 attempts, 3 completions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. He threw some passes short effectively. Nothing over the top great, but did his thing. good short stuff, and a couple of checkdowns in front of him, around him, behind the line of scrimmage, also churning out decent yardage. So it's I mean it's the kind of passing chart you would expect from the way the offense has been lately. Um I am really surprised that the 49ers never did anything in the interest of trying to make Sam Darnold beat them. Like, if I were Robert Saleh, I would have put 9 in the box if I had to stop the run, and seen it, and just to see if Darnold can hit a deep shot. They never really forced us to stop running the ball, it felt like. There were very few moments where Darnold had to do much of anything, and he did come through. Like, he had the one really nice throw to, I think it was Cooper Kupp on the 2nd and 20 after the sack. But I think there were opportunities for the Niners to really kinda see how that oblique was treating him, and I think the oblique was probably fine, but I was surprised they never tested it a little bit. If you're the Niners defense, I know it wouldn't have changed the outcome because you lost by 5 touchdowns, but man, I imagine you gotta be sitting there thinking, "We didn't even make Sam Darnold have to do anything." Alright, so moving along here, receiving grade stuff. Very interesting here. JSN did lead the team in slot snaps this week, so he's playing in the slot a little bit more as the season goes on, it feels like. And Cooper Kupp was actually more of an outside receiver this week than JSN was. So kind of a little bit weird. Shaheed also had 4 slot snaps, so there was actually a little bit of a timeshare in the slot this week. And you can see that JSN only played 9 of his snaps as a wideout, 50%. Kupp, Bobo, and Shaheed had a much higher percentage. So, as this season has gone on, JSN's seen more of the slot. Now, in this game, obviously, he didn't do a lot, but that was just because we didn't throw the ball very much, so I'm not really reading anything into that. But it is kind of interesting. And real quick, just to look at the coverage matchups here for some Seahawks receivers. Cooper Kupp, you can see that he had 5 targets in this game. He caught all of them, and every target was against a different defender. You had a couple of corners, you had a couple of safeties, and or excuse me, you had 3 and one from a yeah, you had Upton Stout and Renardo Green, and then you had 2 safety targets, and then you had 1 linebacker target. And JSN also spreading it out a little bit, getting targeted against Gross Matos on 1 play, which love that. And then the other 2 reps are against corners. But I do like to check in on that every week just to see how the matchups are going. Rushing direction. This is another really fun one for me. And as you can see, there were a lot of areas where Seattle was able to run the ball successfully. The thing that really stands out is the outside zone. Left end, off left end, that is outside the left side tight end. 9 attempts, 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. So very productive. That outside zone rushing attack, which is going to be so important against the Rams next week, is clicking. Not so good on the right side, 6 carries, 15 yards, but we also had the other touchdown there, for whatever that's worth. Now, if you want to find the other areas of success, left guard, which is the gap between left tackle and left guard, 6.7 yards per carry on 3 attempts. You also had right guard, which is the gap between Bradford and Luke and Abraham Lucas, 6.5 yards per. And these other ones, not so much. Like middle right was just 5 attempts, 6 yards. So not much more than a cloud of dust over there. Not much to say, but there were plenty of areas where Seattle found great success running the ball this week. All right, so good stuff here. Really happy to see it. You can see how Seattle's able to really spread these teams out by putting so many tight ends on the field, and they are riding it all the way to tremendous success. Now, pass blocking stuff. Looking at the pass blocking data from this week, pretty straightforward. Only 6 pressures on Sam Darnold, 2 sacks and 4 hurries. So no hits on Darnold except for the 2 sacks. 1 sack they gave to Ken Walker, the other they gave to Sundell, or Sundell, or whatever, Jalen Sundell. The one they gave to Walker, I don't know. To me, that's on Darnold for not throwing it out of bounds. He had every opportunity to, but Walker didn't block properly on the play, so I guess I get it. But to me, Darnold should have thrown that ball away pretty easily. And then other than that, you've got a hurry allowed by Lucas, a hurry allowed by Zabel, a hurry allowed by Bradford, and then Sundell also had another hurry he allowed. So pretty darn clean. So Charles Cross, no pressures allowed, and also it's just one rep at AJ Barner, also clean. So feeling great about that. I mean, good to see Cross basically looking like his normal self. And finally, run blocking, way more zone than gap. We did way more zone blocking than gap blocking. Like Abe Lucas, who was on the field for every play, they listed 23 zone blocking snaps for him and 8 gap. And like when we had Saubert on the field, it was 12-2. So we were hitting that zone blocking scheme all day long. And I mean, that was one of the best games we've had running the ball all year. So we certainly pushed the right buttons. But definitely interesting to see how this swings back and forth. I would have thought maybe we would have done a little more gap this week because the Niners are so light up front. But what they did certainly produced great production. I don't think I said that right, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. All right, I'm going to get on out of here. I will see you guys later. We'll talk about the defense. We'll talk about other stuff as well. Go Hawks. Everybody have a great rest of your day and soak it in, people. Soak it in.